The sun blazed down on a sweltering 92-degree afternoon in July 2025, casting a golden haze over a bustling truck stop off Route 66 in New Mexico. This was no ordinary pit stop. It was a slice of Americana, where the past and present collided in a symphony of chrome, neon, and open road. The air shimmered with heat, rising in waves from the cracked asphalt, carrying the sharp tang of gasoline and the faint sweetness of fry oil from the adjacent Starlight Diner. Its neon sign flickered in the daylight, proudly advertising best burgers on 66, while a jukebox inside pumped out Highway Heart, a 2025 country hit by fictional rising star J.T. Colton. The song's twangy guitar riffs drifted through open windows, mingling with the low rumble of semi-trucks idling 50 feet away, their engines growling like distant thunder. Travelers, truckers in worn caps, families on road trips, and locals sipping iced tea moved through the scene, their voices blending into a hum of life along this iconic highway. Into this vibrant tableau roared a glossy yellow Ferrari, its sleek curves catching the sunlight like a beacon. The car, a 2025 model with a throaty purr, eased to a stop at a gas pump, drawing curious glances from the crowd. Behind the wheel was Keanu Reeves, Hollywood icon. Yet, here he was, just a man on the road, his presence understated despite the flashy ride, dressed in a black leather jacket that hung loosely on his lean frame, a pair of dark sunglasses shielding his eyes. Keanu stepped out with the quiet confidence of someone who had nothing to prove. His salt and pepper beard and tousled hair gave him a rugged charm, softened by a faint smile as he glanced around the truck stop. Keanu wasn't just passing through. He was fresh off a charity motorcycle ride for a Los Angeles animal shelter, a cause close to his heart. Known in Hollywood circles for his quiet generosity, he'd raised $50,000 that morning for homeless pets, riding alongside fellow advocates on the open road. The Ferrari, a rare indulgence, was his reward for a day well spent. But his true companion waited in the back seat. Keanu opened the rear door, and out bounded Diesel, an 80-pound pit bull whose muscular frame and soulful brown eyes turned heads as easily as the Ferrari. Diesel's short, brindle coat gleamed under the New Mexico sun, his tail wagging like a metronome set to a joyful beat. Adopted 2 years ago from a Los Angeles shelter after Keanu lost his childhood dog, Rusty, to illness. Diesel was more than a pet, he was family. The bond between them was palpable, forged through quiet evenings at Keanu's Venice Beach home and lively mornings where Diesel chased tennis balls 100 yards across sandy parks, delighting kids and defying every stereotype about pit bulls. His gentle nature shone through in his curious tilt of the head and the way he leaned into Keanu's touch, as if understanding every word. "All right, buddy, stretch those legs," Keanu said, his voice warm with a hint of his trademark calm. He ruffled Diesel's ears, and the dog responded with an enthusiastic wag, his paws dancing on the asphalt as he sniffed the unfamiliar scents of Route 66. Diesel's exploration led him toward a patch of gravel near the gas pumps, his nose low to the ground, tail still swinging. Keanu, keeping one eye on his companion while handling the gas nozzle, seemed at ease. The weight of his Hollywood fame left far behind on this dusty stretch of highway. The truck stop buzzed around them, truckers swapping stories, a family buying snacks, a young barista named Ellie wiping down tables in the diner's shade, but a darker undercurrent simmered 30 feet away. A group of bikers lounged by their Harleys, their leather vests and heavy boots a stark contrast to the bright, open scene. Their leader, Vince, a burly ex-stuntman with a chipped tooth and tattoos curling up his neck, leaned against his bike, a can of soda in hand. His eyes, narrowed with a mix of envy and disdain, locked onto Keanu's Ferrari, then shifted to Diesel, Vince's history with Hollywood was a sore spot. A decade ago, he'd auditioned for a stunt role in one of Keanu's action films, only to be passed over for a flashier name. The rejection had festered, fueling a resentment that now flared at the sight of Keanu's effortless cool and gleaming car. Vince's crew, a trio of rough-edged writers named Mitch, Ray, and Cole, followed his lead, their laughter sharp and mocking as they watched Diesel sniff closer. "Look at that," Vince muttered, his voice low but dripping with venom. "Hollywood's got himself a fancy mutt." He kicked a pebble toward Diesel, who glanced up, curious but unafraid, his tail slowing as he sensed the shift in tone. The other bikers chuckled, egging Vince on, their voices cutting through the country music like a discordant note. Ellie, the barista, paused her work, her phone in hand, sensing trouble. A retired trucker named Hank, sipping coffee 20 feet away, narrowed his eyes, his instincts honed from years on the road. A mom named Sarah, standing by her minivan with her 5-year-old son, tightened her grip on his hand, watching the bikers warily. Keanu, still at the pump, caught Diesel's movement out of the corner of his eye. "Hey, buddy, stay close," he called, his tone firm but gentle, the kind of voice that made Diesel's ears perk up. The pit bull paused, looking back at Keanu, but Vince's gaze hardened. He stepped forward, his heavy boots scuffing the gravel, a cruel glint in his eyes as he sized up the unsuspecting dog. The air grew heavy, the 96-degree heat, seeming to press down harder, amplifying the tension. Keanu's hand tightened on the gas nozzle, his instincts kicking in as he sensed the brewing storm. This wasn't just a pit stop anymore. It was the prelude to a confrontation that would test the bond between a man and his dog, and the strength of kindness in the face of cruelty. The Starlight Diner's jukebox hummed with the fading notes of Highway Heart, its twangy melody swallowed by the sudden tension that gripped the Route 66 truck stop. The 90s sodograph heat pressed down on the asphalt, amplifying the scent of gasoline and the low rumble of idling semis 50 feet away. Diesel, Keanu Reeves' 80-pound pit bull, padded curiously across the gravel, his soulful eyes fixed on a discarded soda can glinting in the sunlight. About 30 feet from the gas pump, where Keanu refueled his yellow Ferrari, the dog's tail wagged steadily, his muscular frame moving with the easy grace of an athlete. Oblivious to the storm brewing nearby, Keanu, in his black leather jacket and sunglasses, glanced over with a faint smile, his hand steady on the gas nozzle. "Don't wander too far, buddy," he called softly, his voice carrying the calm assurance that defined him. Near the edge of the lot, a group of bikers lounged by their Harleys, their leather vests and heavy boots a stark contrast to the truck stop's lively chaos. Their leader, Vince, a grizzled ex-stuntman with a chipped tooth and tattoos snaking up his neck, leaned against his bike, crushing an empty soda can in his fist. His eyes, narrowed with resentment, flicked from Keanu's gleaming Ferrari to Diesel's carefree exploration. Vince's past stung like an open wound. A decade ago, he'd been rejected for a stunt role in one of Keanu's films, a slight that fueled his disdain for Hollywood's pretty boys. Now, seeing Keanu effortlessly cool, a star who didn't flaunt his fame, Vince saw a chance to settle an old score. "Hollywood's mutt thinks he owns the place," he muttered, his voice low but venomous. His crew, Mitch, Ray, and Cole laughed, their guffaws sharp and mean, egging him on. Mitch, a lanky biker with a scar across his cheek, tossed another soda can toward Diesel, who perked up, intrigued by the clatter. Diesel, ever curious, trotted closer, his nose low to the ground, tail still wagging. The can lay just 10 feet from the bikers, and Vince's smirk widened, sensing an opportunity. "Look at this tough guy," he taunted, loud enough for the nearby crowd to hear. "Bet he ain't as strong as he looks." The words cut through the diner's fading music, drawing eyes from the truck stop's patrons truckers, wiping sweat from their brows, families grabbing snacks, and a 19-year-old barista named Ellie, who paused mid-swipe at a diner table, her phone in hand. A retired trucker named Hank, sipping coffee 20 feet away, set down his mug, his Vietnam vet instincts kicking in. Sarah, a mom standing by her minivan with her 5-year-old son. Tommy, who loved dogs, pulled him closer, her eyes narrowing at Vince's tone. Without warning, Vince stepped forward, his heavy boots scuffing the gravel. Diesel looked up, his head tilted, unaware of the danger. With a cruel glint in his eyes, Vince drew back his leg and delivered a sharp kick to Diesel's side. The impact sent the pit bull stumbling 6 feet across the asphalt, a pained yelp piercing the air like a siren. The sound stopped the truck stop cold. The diner's music seemed to fade entirely, the hum of conversation replaced by a collective gasp. Diesel, confused and shaken, scrambled to his feet, his tail low, but his eyes wide with trust still lingering. Keanu, mid-refuel, froze as the gas nozzle slipped from his hand, clattering 3 feet onto the concrete with a metallic ring. His sunglasses hid his eyes, but his jaw tightened. The calm demeanor that defined him, replaced by a focused intensity that radiated like the desert heat. Keanu strode toward Diesel, his boots crunching on the gravel, each step deliberate. The crowd parted instinctively, sensing the shift in the air. He knelt beside his dog, his hands gently running over Diesel's ribs, checking for injury. "You're okay, buddy," he whispered, his voice low and steady, though laced with a protective edge that hadn't been there moments before. Diesel leaned into Keanu's touch, his tail giving a tentative wag, as if reassured by his owner's presence. Keanu's eyes lifted to Vince, who stood smirking, arms crossed, his crew chuckling behind him. "Big man, kicking a dog," Keanu said, his voice calm but cutting, each word weighted with authority. The biker's laughter faltered, Vince's smirk twitching as he met Keanu's gaze. Ellie, the barista, had her phone out now, live streaming on X with trembling hands. "This ain't right," she muttered, captioning the feed with the same words. The video captured Vince's kick, Diesel's yelp, and Keanu's protective crouch, streaming live to thousands. Hank, the retired trucker, was already on his phone, dialing 911 with a grim expression. "Got a situation here," he told the dispatcher, his voice steady. "Guy just kicked a dog, and it's about to get ugly." Sarah, clutching Tommy's hand, moved him behind her, whispering, "Stay back, sweetie." Tommy, wide-eyed, stared at Diesel, his love for dogs making the scene unbearable. "Why'd he hurt him?" "Mommy," he asked, his voice small. Sarah's jaw tightened, her phone now recording too, capturing the moment for evidence. Vince, sensing the crowd's attention, doubled down, stepping closer to Keanu, who rose to his feet, positioning himself between Diesel and the biker. "What's the matter, Hollywood?" Vince taunted, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Your mutt can't handle a little roughhousing." His crew laughed again, but it was forced, their eyes darting to the growing number of phones pointed their way. Keanu's gaze didn't waver, his sunglasses reflecting Vince's scowl. "You don't know Diesel," he said, his tone low but firm, "and you don't know me." The words hung in the air, the 90 centigrade of heat seeming to pulse with attention. Ellie's live stream spiked, comments flooding in, "Protect that dog," and "Keanu's about to go John Wick." Hank pocketed his phone, nodding to Sarah, who gave a subtle thumbs up, their actions weaving a net of community support around Keanu and Diesel. The stage was set, a spark of cruelty had ignited a confrontation, and the truck stop's dusty lot was now a battleground for loyalty and justice. Vince's personal grudge, rooted in his failed Hollywood dreams, had pushed him to cross a line. But Keanu's bond with Diesel, forged through loss and love, was unbreakable. The crowd, from Ellie's quick fingers on X to Hank's call for help, embodied the American spirit of standing up for what's right, their phones turning a fleeting moment into a movement. Diesel, still alert, stood by Keanu's side, his gentle eyes now sharp, ready to face whatever came next. The air at the Route 66 truck stop grew thicker, the 90 of heat pressing down like a heavy curtain, amplifying the tension that crackled between Keanu Reeves and the biker leader, Vince. The Starlight Diner's jukebox had gone silent, its absence leaving only the faint hum of idling semis, 50 feet away, and the murmur of the crowd, now frozen in anticipation. Keanu stood protectively over Diesel, his 80-pound pit bull, who had just been kicked by Vince and was now crouched by his side, ears alert and eyes locked on the bikers 10 feet away. Keanu's black leather jacket seemed to absorb the sunlight, his sunglasses hiding the fire in his gaze as he faced Vince, whose cruel smirk lingered despite the crowd's disapproval. Ellie, the 19-year-old barista, kept her phone raised, live streaming the scene on X, her feed now surging with thousands of viewers. Hank, the retired trucker, stood with his arms crossed, waiting for the police he'd called, while Sarah clutched her 5-year-old son, Tommy, who peered at Diesel with wide, worried eyes. Vince, emboldened by his crew's nervous chuckles, stepped closer, his heavy boots crunching the gravel. He reached into his leather vest and pulled out a pocket knife, flipping it open with a sharp click that echoed in the tense silence. The blade glinted in the sunlight, its 3-inch edge a clear threat. "What's a movie star gonna do about it?" Vince taunted, his voice dripping with contempt, his chipped tooth flashing as he sneered, "You and your mutt don't scare me." His crew, Mitch, Ray, and Cole began to circle Keanu and Diesel, keeping a cautious 10-foot distance, their laughter strained as they glanced at the growing crowd of onlookers. Phones were up everywhere, capturing every move, the X livestream buzzing with comments like "This guy's trouble" and "Protect Diesel, Vince's stuntman passed," marred by a rejection from Keanu's film set years ago, fueled his bravado, his resentment now a dangerous spark in this powder keg moment. Diesel, sensing the escalating danger, shifted his stance, his muscular frame tensed, his soulful eyes narrowing as he scanned the circling bikers. Suddenly, Tommy, Sarah's son, broke free from his mother's grip, drawn by his love for dogs. The 5-year-old darted toward Diesel, his sneakers scuffing the asphalt, unaware of the threat just 8 feet away. Sarah gasped, reaching for him, but Diesel reacted first. With a low, steady growl, the pit bull stepped protectively in front of Tommy, his body a barrier between the child and Vince's crew. Diesel's growl was deep but controlled, and with a gentle nudge of his nose, he guided Tommy back toward Sarah, who scooped him up, her heart pounding. The crowd let out a collective gasp, awed by the pit bull's instinct to protect rather than attack. "That dog's a hero," Hank muttered, his voice thick with admiration. Ellie's livestream exploded, the hashtag #DieselTheHero spiking as viewers shared the moment, defying every stereotype about pit bulls. Keanu, still crouched beside Diesel, rose to his full height, his sunglasses now pushed up to reveal eyes blazing with resolve. He stepped forward, closing the gap to 5 feet from Vince, his posture commanding despite the knife in the biker's hand. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, their phones capturing the standoff like a scene from one of Keanu's action films. But this was no movie. This was real, raw, and rooted in the bond between a man and his dog. Keanu's gaze flicked to a water hose, dangling from the gas pump, its nozzle glinting 3 feet away. In a swift move, he grabbed it, his fingers wrapping around the handle with purpose. "This isn't about me," he said, his voice steady, cutting through the heat like a cool breeze. It's about respecting what's right. With a quick squeeze, he sent a powerful jet of water straight at Vince's chest, the force pushing the biker back 5 feet, his boots slipping on the wet asphalt. Vince stumbled, the knife nearly slipping from his hand as water soaked his vest, his smirk replaced by a scowl of shock and humiliation. The crowd erupted in cheers, a wave of support washing over the truck stop. Ellie's live stream surged to 50,000 viewers, comments flooding in Keanu's a legend and get him. Diesel Hank clapped his hands, his weathered face breaking into a grin, while Sarah hugged Tommy tighter, whispering, "See, honey, good people stand up." The dynamic had shifted. Vince's crew hesitated, their nervous laughter fading as they saw their leader falter. Mitch, the lanky biker, took a step back, muttering, "This ain't worth it." Ray and Cole exchanged uneasy glances, their bravado crumbling under the weight of the crowd's judgment and the growing wail of sirens in the distance, signaling the police Hank had called. Keanu lowered the hose, his eyes locked on Vince, who wiped water from his face, his knife still raised but his confidence shaken. "You think you're tough," Vince spat, trying to regain control, but his voice wavered, betraying his unease. Keanu didn't flinch, his stance unwavering, Diesel at his side like a loyal sentinel. The pit bull's low growl continued, not aggressive, but resolute, his protective act for Tommy still resonating with the crowd. "You don't get it," Keanu said, his tone calm but laced with steel. "It's not about being tough, it's about doing what's right. For Diesel, for that kid, for everyone here." His words, simple yet profound, struck a chord, the crowd nodding in agreement, their phones still rolling, capturing a moment that felt bigger than the truck stop. The sirens grew louder, now just a mile away, their red and blue lights flickering on the horizon. Vince's crew began to back off, their circle loosening as the reality of consequences sank in. Ellie's livestream hit 100,000 views. The hashtag Diesel the Hero trending across X, with viewers from Albuquerque to Los Angeles sharing the story. Sarah, still holding Tommy, whispered to him, "That dog's special, just like you." Hank stepped closer, his presence a quiet reassurance, ready to back Keanu if needed. The truck stop, once a casual stop on Route 66, had become a stage for a battle of values: cruelty versus compassion, arrogance versus integrity. Keanu and Diesel stood at its center, their bond unshakable, as the crowd's support and the approaching sirens promised a reckoning for Vince's actions. The Route 66 truck stop pulsed with tension, the 92-degree enough heat amplifying the standoff's intensity as Keanu Reeves stood firm, his pitbull Diesel at his side. The gravel lot, 50 feet from the humming semis and the Starlight Diner's flickering neon, had become a stage for a clash of values. Vince, the ex-stuntman biker, clutched his pocket knife. Water, dripping from his soaked vest after Keanu's hose blast, had pushed him back 5 feet. His crew, Mitch, Ray, and Cole, hovered uncertainly, their earlier bravado fading under the weight of the crowd's disapproval. Ellie, the 19-year-old barista, kept her phone raised, her ex-livestream now at 100,000 views, capturing every moment of Vince's aggression and Diesel's protective stance over Sarah's son. Tommy, Hank, the retired trucker and Vietnam vet, stood ready, his 911 call still fresh, while Sarah held Tommy close, her phone recording additional evidence. The distant wail of sirens grew louder, cutting through the heavy air like a promise of justice. Within 8 minutes of Hank's call, 2 police cruisers screeched into the lot, their red and blue lights flashing across the asphalt, illuminating the scene like a 4th of July display. The crowd, truckers, families, and diner staff parted as 4 officers stepped out, their hands resting on their belts, exuding authority. The lead officer, a no-nonsense woman named Officer Ramirez, scanned the scene, her eyes narrowing at Vince's knife. "Drop it. Now," she ordered, her voice sharp. Vince hesitated, his smirk faltering, then tossed the knife to the ground, where it landed 3 feet away with a dull clink. Keanu lowered the water hose, setting it back on the pump, his gaze steady on Diesel, who stood alert but calm, his tail giving a slow wag. Ellie approached, her phone still streaming, and showed Ramirez the live stream, which clearly captured Vince's kick to Diesel's side and his threatening knife flip. "This guy kicked the dog and pulled a blade," Ellie said, her voice trembling but firm. "It's all here." Sarah stepped forward, her 5-year-old son clinging to her leg, and offered her own video, recorded from 20 feet away. "I got it too," she said, her tone resolute. "He hurt that dog for no reason." The footage corroborated Ellie's, showing Diesel's pained yelp and Vince's taunting smirk. Hank, his weathered face set in a scowl, addressed Vince directly. "You picked the wrong dog to mess with," he said, his Vietnam vet grit cutting through the tension. The crowd murmured in agreement, a trucker in a flannel shirt clapping slowly, the sound spreading like a ripple. Officer Ramirez reviewed the videos, her expression hardening. "Animal cruelty's a misdemeanor in New Mexico," she said, nodding to her partner, who pulled out handcuffs. "That's a $1,000 fine and 30 days of community service. Minimum. You're coming with us." Vince's jaw clenched, his crew slinking back toward their Harleys, their heads low as the crowd's applause grew louder. A wave of approval washing over the lot. Vince, now cuffed, shot a venomous glare at Keanu. But the bravado was gone, replaced by the weight of consequences. His crew, Mitch, Ray, and Cole muttered excuses, one kicking a pebble 10 feet away as they retreated, their Harleys no longer a symbol of dominance but a hasty escape. Keanu ignored them, kneeling beside Diesel, his hands gently ruffling the pit bull's brindle fur. "You're a champ, buddy," he said, his voice soft but thick with pride. Diesel, sensing the shift, licked Keanu's hand, his tail wagging more freely now, the tension easing from his muscular frame. The dog's resilience, so evident in his protective act for Tommy, drew admiring glances from the crowd. Keanu rose, his sunglasses back on, and approached Ellie, extending a hand. "Thank you for stepping up," he said, his grip firm. Ellie, blushing, nodded. "Just did what was right," she replied, her ex-livestream still rolling, now at 150,000 views, with Ignacio Diesel the hero trending nationwide. Keanu turned to Hank, shaking the trucker's calloused hand. "Appreciate the call, man," he said, his tone genuine. Hank, his eyes crinkling with a rare smile, shrugged. "Couldn't let that jerk get away with it," he said. Sarah, still holding Tommy, approached, her son now smiling at Diesel. "Can I pet him?" Tommy asked, his voice small but hopeful. Keanu nodded, kneeling again to guide Tommy's hand to Diesel's head. The pit bull leaned into the touch, his tail wagging like a metronome, earning a giggle from the boy. "He's a good dog," Sarah said, her voice warm. "You both are." The crowd, now gathered closer, clapped again, their phones still out, capturing the moment of unity. A trucker shouted, "That's how we do it on 66," sparking laughter and nods. The Route 66 spirit of community shining through. The officers escorted Vince to a cruiser, his head bowed as the crowd's cheers followed him. Ramirez turned to Keanu, her notepad out. "Mr. Reeves, your dog's lucky to have you," she said. "This could have gotten ugly, but you kept it under control." Keanu shook his head, his hand resting on Diesel's back. "It wasn't just me," he said. "It was Ellie, Hank, Sarah, everyone here. They didn't just stand by." His words, simple yet profound, resonated with the crowd, reflecting the American value of collective action. Ellie's live stream surged to 200,000 views, comments flooding in Keanu's a hero and Diesel's the real MVP. The truck stop, once a fleeting stop, had become a symbol of justice, its dusty lot now hallowed by a shared stand against cruelty. As the cruisers pulled away, their lights fading into the 92-degree NF haze, Keanu looked down at Diesel, who nuzzled his leg, fully relaxed now. The crowd began to disperse, some still filming, others sharing stories of their own pets. Hank tipped his cap. Sarah hugged Tommy, and Ellie pocketed her phone, her live stream a testament to the power of community. Keanu's bond with Diesel, tested by Vince's cruelty, had sparked something bigger, a moment of unity that would ripple far beyond this Route 66 truck stop. Carried by the crowd's videos and the unyielding spirit of a man and his dog. As the police cruisers pulled away from the Route 66 truck stop, their red and blue lights fading into the 97-degree New Mexico dusk, the tension that had gripped the Starlight Diner's gravel lot began to dissolve. Keanu Reeves stood beside his yellow Ferrari, his hand resting on Diesel's brindle fur. The 80-pound pit bull now relaxed, his tail wagging gently like a metronome. The crowd, truckers, families, and locals lingered, their phones still glowing as they shared videos of the confrontation that had unfolded just minutes ago. Ellie's live stream, which captured Vince's cruel kick, his threatening knife, and Diesel's heroic protection of 5-year-old Tommy, had exploded, hitting 4 million views by 10 p.m. The hashtag #HardDieselTheHero trended nationwide, with users from Albuquerque to New York sharing the story, their comments a chorus of support. Keanu's a legend, and Diesel's a hero. A TikTok filter mimicking Diesel's wagging tail went viral, with teens across the U.S. creating videos of their own pets, captioned with messages of kindness. The truck stop, once a fleeting stop on a dusty highway, had become a beacon of compassion, its story rippling far beyond the 50-foot radius of the diner's neon glow. Keanu, his black leather jacket now slung over his shoulder, crouched beside Diesel, his eyes soft but resolute. "You showed them, buddy," he murmured, ruffling the pit bull's ears. Diesel licked his hand, his soulful eyes reflecting the trust that had carried them through the ordeal. Keanu rose, glancing at the crowd. Ellie, the 19-year-old barista who'd live-streamed the truth. Hank, the Vietnam vet trucker who'd called 911. And Sarah, the mom who'd shielded Tommy while recording evidence. Their actions had turned a moment of cruelty into a movement for justice. Keanu approached Ellie, his voice warm. "Your quick thinking made a difference," he said, shaking her hand. He turned to Hank, nodding. "And you brought help when it counted." To Sarah, he added, "Your son's got a big heart, just like you." Tommy, clinging to his mom, grinned and waved at Diesel, who wagged his tail in return. The crowd clapped, a trucker shouting, "That's Route 66 spirit." The moment felt like a snapshot of America at its best, diverse strangers uniting for what's right. The impact didn't stop at the truck stop. That evening, Keanu sat in his Ferrari, Diesel curled up in the back seat, and recorded a heartfelt X-post. "Today, Diesel taught me strength comes from kindness," he said, his voice steady but emotional. "He stood up for a kid, and you all stood up for him. Let's keep standing for the underdog always." He posted it with the caption, "Kindness wins. Share and show Diesel the hero if you agree." The video surged to 5 million views overnight, sparking a wave of support. Inspired by Keanu's words, fans donated to animal shelters across the U.S., with one Los Angeles shelter reporting 200 adoption inquiries in 24 hours. Keanu himself wired $15,000 to a New Mexico shelter, the same one he'd supported during his charity ride earlier that day. The donation funded a new kennel wing, named Diesel's Den, inspiring a nationwide surge in pet adoptions and reinforcing the American value of giving back. Vince, the biker whose cruelty sparked the incident, faced more than legal consequences. The $1,000 fine and 30 days of community service mandated by the New Mexico court were just the start, shamed by the viral videos, which racked up millions of views. He began volunteering at the same shelter as part of his sentence, under the watchful eye of shelter staff. Vince cleaned kennels and fed strays, his initial resentment slowly giving way to a grudging respect for the animals. By week 2, he was seen petting a shy rescue pup, a small step toward redemption that echoed America's belief in second chances. The shelter's director shared his progress on X, noting, "Even the toughest hearts can change," a sentiment that resonated with viewers nationwide. The story became a Route 66 legend, woven into the highway's rich tapestry of tales. Travelers passing through the Starlight Diner began leaving tennis balls, Diesel's favorite at the counter, a tribute to the pit bull's courage. By summer's end, a small pile had grown, each ball a symbol of kindness triumphing over cruelty. The diner's jukebox, once again playing Highway Heart by J.T. Colton, seemed to sing of hope as Keanu started his Ferrari, its engine purring softly. He glanced at Diesel in the rearview mirror, the pit bull now sprawled across the back seat, content. "You're one of a kind, buddy," Keanu said, a smile breaking through. As he drove off, the diner's neon glowed behind him, a beacon of community and resilience in the 90s sectograph night. This tale carries profound lessons for us all. First, compassion is strength, not weakness. Diesel's gentle protection of Tommy and Keanu's calm stand against Vince prove that kindness can shift the tide. Second, community matters. Ellie, Hank, and Sarah's actions show how ordinary Americans, armed with phones and courage, can amplify justice. Third, redemption is possible. Vince's journey, sparked by shame and service, reminds us that change is within reach. Finally, standing for the underdog, whether a child, a dog, or a cause, is a quintessentially American act, rooted in fairness and hope. These lessons, born on a dusty New Mexico lot, challenge us to act with empathy, unite for justice, and believe in second chances. To you, the audience, thank you for joining this journey. Your shares, comments, and support on X and beyond keep stories like Diesel's alive, spreading kindness in a world that needs it. If this tale moved you, share on Diesel the Hero and tell us how you stand for the underdog. Subscribe to our channel for more stories of courage and compassion together. We can make kindness trend every day. As Keanu and Diesel drive into the horizon, let their story remind us no act of kindness is too small, and no heart is too hard to change.